right. How you guys doing, by the way?
I'm doing well. Very, very busy, but happy to be here in the stew.
Yeah. In the stew?
In
Is
the
that industry lingo right there? Is that
I guess
that's
in
the
the stew, or what is this in the
in the editing
Ed
suite?
the Ed.
Yeah.
yeah. In the suite?
In the
Yeah.
suite? Yeah. That works pretty well. Well, hello. Welcome to the first episode of the Bates College Museum of Art podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I'm very excited to be doing this because I've been thinking about this since December-ish of last year. And it's a project that I'm very happy to be actually doing as opposed to just sort of talking about all the time and not having anything to show for it yet. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And I should probably introduce myself. I'm Peter Philbin. I'm the Assistant Education Curator for the Museum of Art. And I'm joined by Lucy Sherman. Say hi, Lucy.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm also an intern. I'm working alongside Peter this semester as a educational projects intern.
Yeah.
And I've been working at the museum for the last 2 years too. Yeah, and I'm excited to be doing this with Peter.
Wow. I feel such gratitude. Oh, yeah. No, but seriously, yeah. Thanks to Lucy for helping me out to get this actually off the ground. I thought that a cool way to start would be, rather than kind of focus on the most obvious things that you see when you come into a museum, to instead kind of go directly behind the scenes to the collection, which I feel like you're always sort of aware of when you're in a museum, but you're never quite thinking about as actively. You might pass by a door that is like scary and dark where things are being kept, but I'm joined by Clara and Liv today, who are both collections interns.
Hello, yeah, happy to be here. No, Liv and I work in the collections room, aka our evil lair, where we sort through, the works that are in storage that pretty much no one else really looks at or sees besides us. But
Yeah.
there really are some amazing gems that the Bates Museum has that we get to work with really every day. And we're excited to talk about some of our favorite pieces that we've found through this project and through our work.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. We've even found some pieces that are the curators of the museum who've been here for. Anthony's been here for 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think close to 30. Yeah,
Yeah.
a really long time.
And last week I found a piece that he didn't know even existed.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things people don't realize about collection. I mean, they're so vast. I mean, ours is a small collection for an art museum, and it's over 8,000 items. It's probably more like 10,000.
Yeah.
We're not actually sure, which is also surprisingly common. And such a small percentage of that is on display at a time. It's something like 0.5% of our collection is up right now. So think about how much you don't see when you come in. So yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're going to be hitting on is some of those hidden gems of the Bates College Art Museum, the things you walk by every day and don't even realize. But I first kind of wanted to ask you guys, like, why did you want to work in collections? Like, what made you want to do that?
Well, so same as Lucy, I've been here for 2 years, or 3 semesters because I went abroad. But I immediately started in collections, which is what I wanted to do. I've always loved history. There's a reason I'm a classical medieval studies major.
Let's go.
Yeah. Fun fact for the listener, that's how I know Peter originally.
Yes.
We took Greek together for a couple semesters.
Yeah.
I love the stories. I love the hidden gems, which is what we're going to be talking about. Just finding out stuff that the majority of people are completely unaware exist. It's just an intensely satisfying experience.
I actually was assigned to work in collections management. I'm not really sure if I put a preference on my application for the internship, but because I wasn't really sure. I mean, I'm an art history major, and I know I want to work in the art world, in I'm not really sure in what department. I mean, I'm thinking about being a curator or, an art dealer, an art critic. I'm not really sure. So I just kind of let them put me somewhere random. And I ended up in collections management. And what I really like about it is just everyday kind of hands-on work with the art and just knowing how to interact with it. And learning kind of like the language and the vocabulary that goes with that. And something that I really like the most is that, when you go into a museum, the average viewer spends about 8 seconds or something looking at a piece. But when you're working in collections management and you're filling out these condition reports and you're writing these descriptions, you spend a really long time with the piece and you get to see these things that you wouldn't be able to if it's just hanging on the wall or if you're going into an exhibition just as, a viewer and not someone working with the art. And that's something that I've really grown to love. And also now doing this inventory project that Liv and I are working on right now, just seeing what's there in the museum, because there's so many cool things that I had no idea. And it's just just yesterday I'm doing inventory, random Monday, not feeling too great. Open the folder, boom, Rembrandt dry point etching. I'm like, what's going on here? I'd send it to my parents, a photo. I'm like, how's your Monday? I just touched a Rembrandt. Beat that. 10 minutes later, I find this, Norman Rockwell piece. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And it's just kind of in this drawer and in this folder with all these other random pieces. And you just never know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's you right there. I didn't know that we had anything by Norman Rockwell in the collection. Yeah. So that excites me a lot. I didn't know that at all.
I'll show you on Wednesday, tomorrow.
Please do.
I
want to see it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Why don't you guys? So you're doing an inventory project right now. So what does that look like? What are you doing on the daily for that?
Well, for the inventory project, we're basically in one of our storage areas. It's just big shelves with lots and lots of drawers.
Yeah.
Drawers that are labeled, and in the drawers are just tons of folders. And our job is to take out each of those folders and confirm that the accession number is correct and that we have it correctly in our database, and then update where the location is so that if any professors or any of the curators, if basically someone wants to find it, we will have an updated record of where it is.
Yeah. It's really, it's for a museum to keep track of everything in the collection. It's quite a project. I mean, we did not have a collections manager or registrar in the museum until 2016. A lot of that was being done sort of on rotation by who was there, and then Corey, who's our collections manager now, has really been the person who's kind of been taking on themselves to kind of turn that into something that's more accessible, so we can be a tool for the community and for the school. I know you guys have some favorite gems from the museum, we could say. Why don't you talk about some of those?
So the first piece is Le Bonheurs. Sorry. My apologies. I tried.
We make no assurances on pronunciation.
Anyone that speaks French, listen to this.
Yeah. Sorry. My French is not great. By Paul Cézanne. So this is a lithograph on laid paper from 1898. So I chose this piece. I'll describe it in a moment. But so this was last semester, and I'm going through a folder, and I open up this cardboard casing, and I'm like, oh wow, this really looks like a Cézanne inspired bather's drawing. You can tell that this artist was really inspired by them. And then I put the little accession number in the database, and I was like, it's a Paul Cézanne. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was so excited because One that was one of the first kind of big names that I had approached while doing this project. I think it may have been the first. And in my freshman fall, I wrote my final research paper for my modern European art class on, how Cezanne revolutionized depictions of the human body and of the nude figure, and kind of made it okay to depict it as ugly or not perfect. So I kind of had a personal connection. And I think that this lithograph really is a great example of him playing with the human nude body, because so it's, a natural setting. There's mountains in the background and trees, and there's 4 nude men. And they're all, posed very differently. One is reclining on the grass, with his head behind his shoulder. Another one is much closer in the foreground, and he's drying himself off. Another figure is to the right of him, kind of has his knee up and his foot resting on a rock. And then there's one further in the background with his back towards the viewer, and he's kind of stretching his arm. And I chose this piece because I think it is kind of a great example of Cezanne playing with the human body through all these different poses. And that's my first piece. And this was truly a moment for me when I realized that the Bates Museum has some real hidden gems in their collection, and that are not on exhibition. So, I feel really honored that I get to work with these. And I remember I sent a photo to my family group chat, and I had my hand on it, and I was like, I'm touching a Cezanne with my bare hand.
Yeah. There's definitely, some humble bragging with the family, I feel like, is definitely something that happens a lot. My parents are both kind of like vaguely interested in art, and so they know some like the bigger names, so I'll just be like, oh yeah, like pass by the Picasso folder today, and they're like, wow. It's kind of fun to, I don't want to say taunt, but something akin to that. Yeah.
My dad is an artist. He's a painter. Kind of a hobby, but as he gets older, he does more and more of it. So I very much have grown up with him teaching me about like color theory and composition, and just very much being in the art world because of him. And so every shift I have at the museum, I'm inevitably taking photos of like a bunch of the pieces just to send to him and be like, look at all this cool stuff I get to work with. Like,
no, Liv and I are always snapping photos every day.
Absolutely. But usually when we're doing inventory, one person sits at the computer and writes down all the information, and the other person is going to the other person's going to the folders and looking through and lifting them up. It just saves us some time. And like one of us will be sitting and say to the other, oh, can you take a photo of that and like send it to me?
Yeah. What's funny is that we literally like all of the opposite things.
Oh, we do.
It's so funny. Like Liv will pull something out, she'll be like, oh, this is so cool. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like that one. And it happens all the time. And because I feel like you like a lot of, that kind of Greek mythology, or kind of like the dark, I feel like with a lot of animal things and a lot of detail, and I love like all these like color blocking and bright colors and like watercolors, and it's fun that but we're always taking photos, but they're always of different the opposite things. But I like it.
Well, in that case, let's hear something, one of your objects then, Liv.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite ones is called Harper Girl on Her Bike by Sigmund Abeles. I'm gonna guess.
I think it's Abeles.
Abeles?
I believe it's Sigmund Abeles, yeah.
Lucy's nodding. All right.
Thanks, Lucy.
It's also a lithograph done in red and brown ink. It's from it's like the early 1980s. And I just love this piece. It's of a nude woman sitting on a motorbike that is facing the viewer. And she's just sitting so relaxed and looking off to her left. Like one of her hands is on the handlebar, and the other one is on her thigh, and she's like bracing the bike with her right leg. And there's just so much detail, but there's just all this mark making that I'm so entranced by. Just like tiny details on the bike and like dark spots on her skin, and it just feels so real and natural. Kind of like you were talking about the Cezanne piece with showing the body in its completely natural form, not like
Just acceptance of imperfections.
exactly. And then there's just this very sketchy, lighter colored background that brings a lot of emphasis to the woman and her bike, but makes the whole piece like feel more full, more centered in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of putting it. We've been looking a lot at the form with the exhibition we have up right now upstairs, where there's a lot of drawings from Marston Hartley. The museum has the largest collection of Hartley's drawings. It's something we like to brag about. And he did a lot of sketches of particularly male nudes. When you walk by them every day, when you're working in the museum or you're coming in to do those things, you tend to start seeing a lot more of the details in it that you didn't see on the first pass.
It's just such a cool experience being able to not only have access to this resource, which kind of plug the museum, like we want more students to come and
Yes.
access this amazing resource that we have, that it's very difficult to promote a museum on such a small campus because a lot of students, I mean, Bates keeps us very, very busy. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And when you do have a free time, it's like you don't necessarily want to go to what we see as another academic building to go to the museum. You don't really think about it unless there's like a big showing happening.
Yeah.
But
I actually think that I graduated from Bates in May of last year, and I don't have a lot of regrets about things I did, but if I had to say one, it would be not doing a museum internship is actually the big one, because I thought about it, and then I just looked at my schedule, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to fit this in. And I was wrong. Like, I definitely could have done it, but it was just sort of this this feeling of bouncing from one thing to the next, and can I really do this? And that's one of the things that I think is really great about the way it works at the museum, is I think it is built in a way that makes it really compatible for students to be able to build in with their other classwork. So
Everyone, all the like long-term people that work at the museum, so Corey and Anthony and Dan and Bill, who's semi-retired now, really understand that the students have other responsibilities that need to go first.
Yeah.
Last semester when I was working on my thesis, Clara and I work, we always work the same days, but last semester we worked Tuesday, Thursdays, right? And Thursday was also my, when I had my thesis meetings. And so for a solid, I think, month, I would text Corey like midnight the night before and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I have so much thesis work to do. I cannot come in tomorrow morning. Like feeling awful that I was flaking. And she was so chill about it, so understanding. And having that not only from like an employer, but also from a mentor, it takes a weight off your chest as a student.
And I think also like with the museum internship, and just that the people that work at the museum really do want to kind of help you. And for me, I've always asked, like, if they're hanging paintings, can I come watch? Or when they're installing a new exhibition, I always love to be up there. If I'm doing like condition reports or anything, just to watch and just to be a part of it. And they're always like, Corey's always like is very kind of helpful in that regard, that they're really here to help you learn and kind of provide you with those opportunities and kind of like encourage you to ask for that. So no, that's a really great aspect of the internship. And that for me, I worked in collections management last winter semester, and then short term I was writing for the catalog, and then now I'm doing collections again. And it's if you're in one department for one semester, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can move around and see how other departments work, if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, definitely one of the advantages of working in a small museum is bouncing between those roles. Because when you get to like those larger museums, there's a lot of stratification and who does what, and dividing all those things up. And so it's nice to work in a museum actually where we have 5 permanent staff members right now, soon to be 6.
Are you the 6th?
Which is exciting. I am one of the 5 technically.
Oh, no way.
We actually have a new curator coming who will be starting in just a few weeks, which stay tuned and you'll hear more about.
Are we doing an interview on the podcast?
Oh, I mean, how could we not? Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah. Stay tuned, loyal public. The interview is coming. I wanted to talk about the other pieces you had in here as well. So why don't we?
Sorry, we're getting off topic.
I mean, what's wrong with that? Yeah.
I love a good banter.
Yeah, exactly. So, so why don't we go back to that? So.
Okay, this next piece it's really cute. It's really random, but it's called Lubeck Summer by Winifred C. Long. It is a watercolor on paper from 1984. So this watercolor, I chose it because of the way it makes me feel, and that it kind of reminds me of, my time living here in Maine. So this piece depicts a small and old white cottage with black shutters. Some have fallen off, some have not. The house has some broken slats. And, there's a scalloped white trim rests above each window. The front door is left open, giving the dilapidated home a more inviting feel. And, the sunlight is warm and the sky is a bright blue with these light, flossy clouds. There's this golden green grass in front of this little cottage. And you can tell it's overgrown, and there's just these wild flowers scattered amongst the overgrown grass. And one of my favorite parts is this house has this gingerbread wavy style trim that lines the edges of the roof, which is very, classic to coastal New England Victorian architecture. And just when I look at this painting, I can almost, feel the wind flowing through this overgrown grass. And there's like this beautiful bush with pink flowers that grows against the front side of the home. And I love this piece because I love watercolor. It's just really soft. And I also chose it because it just encapsulates the kind of simple and classic beauty of coastal Maine. I mean, this is a little bit about me. I mean, I was a senior in 2020, 2021, so I never got to tour any of the schools that I was applying to, and I just came to Maine. Well, I applied to Bates randomly, ED'd.
Yeah.
The only thing I knew about it was that there was a cereal wall. And
the cereal wall is pretty.
It was
diss
quite
the cereal wall.
underwhelming,
That's like,
to be quite honest. No, now I've come to love it, but
okay. I'm glad.
that being the only thing I knew about the school, and then it wasn't even a wall. I was like, okay, but I've grown to love it. But anyway, I came here randomly, and I just fell in love with Maine, and I just feel like, when else am I going to be able to spend 4 years of my life in this beautiful and kind of somewhat random state? And I just chose to talk about this piece just because it really just, as I said, captures that classic coastal New England beauty. This home is just so kind of warm and inviting, and you drive down the Maine coast and you can see all these old cottages. I find it very soothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Maine. I mean, the thing that is great about the collection as well is that, I mean, we have some of these pieces, the Saison or the things like that are in there. But there's a lot in the collection that connects to Maine in some way, whether the artists are from Maine, whether the works are scenes from Maine. That's like a really big part of what is in there, and all of the sort of themes and lovely things that get carried with that. All right.
Want me to do another?
Yep.
All right.
You're up.
So, another piece I really love is just called Falcon, by Hans Erni. The creation date for this is actually unknown, but the museum acquired it in 1997, so it's been in our collection for a while. And it's a lithograph, another lithograph, on this olive green mat, and the background is kind of this mottled green. The whole piece is pretty dark, as Clara said, is kind of what I go towards. Listen, I like the ones that are really bold.
Yeah. You gotta make an impression.
Oh yeah, exactly. You would never know it, but I am goth at heart. So the background is this really like mottled green, like a couple shades darker than the mat that it's on, and there's this black border, and then the subject is the falcon, which is like the bird like raising its powerful wings up to take flight, and it's like resting on this totally twisted black branch that's like in the foreground, where you can see the falcon like resting on it, but then it's also curving up and like twisting. It's all scraggly in the back. And the falcon is painted in black with these like gray streaks and like other details done in gray. And there's also some gray streaks on the tree. And then there's just all these white lines creating this incredible feeling of movement, all these streaks and like lines on the bird, but both the bird and on the tree, on the branch. And it's just it's very bold. And I just, the feeling of movement, I don't know how to describe it, but that's something that my dad has always talked to me about. Like, he and I differ in what we like in terms of art as well. I like the hyperrealism, and he likes like the more abstract like kind of landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
But something that he's really given me an appreciation of is the way that artists can use quick strokes to create this amazing sense of movement in something that is completely stationary. So it's amazing being able to look at this piece and get this total feeling of this massive, powerful bird is about to take flight. And it's just captured there beautifully.
If you almost like you could hit a play button and it would
Yes.
move forward. Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Absolutely. It's one of the many beauties of art, the emotions and feelings it can create in you.
This past weekend, I went to an exhibition in Boston at the Institute of Contemporary Art, and I cried.
Really?
Oh.
It was my first time crying at an exhibition. It was wild. And I was like, and you know what's crazy? Okay, I'm going to get off topic.
Go
But,
for it.
You know, our class about decolonizing the museum.
Yes.
This is my first time going to an exhibition post taking that class for a month.
Sure.
So different. Like, I just feel like I was so hyper aware of everything that was going on. And, you know, that one in particular, it was about these artists who are inspired by children's art, because it's so raw, it's so unfiltered, and it's just so pure. And it was this multimedia exhibition, and no, just like the emotions that came up for me. And I think because of that class, and also just I think the idea of childhood makes a lot of people emotional, but it was a really interesting experience. And for me, that was like the first time that I had such an intense reaction to interacting with art.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever cried at a work of art before. Actually,
Yeah.
I have teared up. I think I've come close. But it's interesting when you sometimes hearing the story behind something, I think draws out the emotion.
Totally. Do you have a third piece?
I do have a third piece.
Okay. I'm gonna do my third pieces. It's not one piece. I could not choose. But something that is really cool that Liv and I found a few weeks ago was all of these kind of tear-outs of newspapers. Yes. from Harper's weekly newspapers from the 1860s through the 1880s, and they cover kind of like Civil War into Reconstruction period. And basically, I think we have them for the full page illustrations, but also on the back is like the funniest stuff ever.
Yeah.
Like, no, but the days that we went through those folders, we probably got, I mean, there was one day I did it by myself. I think I got like 3 folders because I spent the whole time reading the backs of these old newspapers. But I chose these because it's, a little bit different than more conventional art piece. One that I thought was funny was, I forget what year it was from, but it's called, it was from January 11th, 1879. So this one is called A Clean Shirt. So it depicts I would assume like a former Confederate soldier opens a box for a clean shirt. There is a note that reads, "My dear solid South, take off your fraud shirt and try a clean one. Yours, St. Claus." And the front of the shirt box reads, "A clean shirt. It has a civilizing effect and makes one feel that, quote, all men are equal at the polls in a Republican form of government," end quote. And in the background, there lays a bloody shirt that reads, "The bloody shirt is played out," end quote. And it's just funny to see these kind of witty political illustrations from the Reconstruction era. So this was a funny one. There's another one, King Andy, with Andrew Johnson, right? What was that? Who was Abraham Lincoln's vice president?
Johnson.
Yeah, Andrew
Yes.
Johnson.
I get the Andrews confused a lot.
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
No.
Yeah.
But there's so many of these political cartoons kind of following the Reconstruction era, and I'm really interested in that period, and then reading the backs of the articles, you kind of just get a feel of what was going on at the time, like what people were talking about on an everyday basis. One other part that I like is on the back of one of them, there is a daily humor section. So I wanted to try out these Reconstruction era jokes on
wow.
you guys.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here, this is for you classicists.
Hey,
I
okay.
actually took Latin for 5 years.
Oh,
Fun
okay.
fact. All right, so if a pig could talk in Latin, what would he say? I'm giving you guys an opportunity to guess.
I mean,
I'm assuming it's a joke about pig Latin.
it's got to be some kind of oink.
Why doubtless porca verba.
Oh, my God.
Oh wow, that's pretty bad. That's
Oh, there's so many. Oh, I'm so glad you like birds. What kind do you admire most? Said a wife to her husband. Well, I think a good turkey with plenty of seasoning, about as good as any. They're so bad.
that's a joke.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, but
I don't
what
even
did they think
conceptually
were
understand.
funny?
Yeah, what that's going for.
I mean, if you have to do humor for each day, daily humor.
You're not all
then-
gonna be winners. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
This one's quite bad.
We're dragging somebody through right now who was just doing their best. Like.
1879.
Sorry,
1879.
Harper's Weekly. But no,
Yeah.
these ones they're really fun. This is how to make a good jam.
Okay. All right.
Crowd 20 fashionably dressed ladies into one streetcar.
20. Wow.
Good jam.
There.
Oh, gotcha.
I didn't even get that. Right
I
away.
wonder how they would react to our jokes. Imagine if the editors of Harper's Weekly read the Blind Tiger thread.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. That would be, I think, a mortifying experience.
Yeah.
In the same way that reading this jam joke, I guess it must be very embarrassing for someone's ghost right now.
No,
Yeah.
but those newspaper illustrations are really cool and definitely a great resource for, maybe some student writing an essay or, I don't know, wanting to know more about the time period. But no, those were really fun to look through, and there are more that we haven't seen yet. So I'm excited to look at those when we get to them, I guess, through this inventory project.
All right. I believe you have one more.
I do have one more.
Reveal the secrets of the collection to us.
My goodness. This piece is not only untitled, the creation date is also unknown. So the artist is Kate Cheney Chappelle. We acquired this in 2000, and it's really beautiful. It's a monoprint, and it's pretty big. It's 22 by 17 inches, so it's a larger piece. And in like the bottom left, in this like very like neat but flowy script, it says, and a desire for higher lovemaking sweeps you upward. So this piece, which it's untitled, but I've been kind of referring to it as the Holy Longing because that's the title of the quote. So this piece is much more kind of color blocky, which is more Clara's style, but it's just these bright, beautiful, bold colors, and so it's this large like yellow and orange rectangle, and then 3 smaller squares underneath, and yellow and orange and blue, and then it's a group of pine needles that are kind of scattered across the piece. And this piece it's a monoprint, and so I'm honestly left to kind of assume that maybe the artist literally put pine needles down on the print.
Oh, right.
Just the way it looks, I mean, with monoprints, it would be pretty hard to get them as clear as they are on the piece. The pine needles are done in dark blue, in white, and then this like very light yellow that makes it look like it's almost glowing on the background, which is what drew me to this piece. Is not only are the colors like really bold, but if you can do art to make something look like it's glowing when there's no light source, that's just immediately you've blown my mind.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's just 6 out of, what,
8,000?
Yeah,
8,000 plus.
8,000 plus.
Wild.
You know, I didn't know there was a Norman Rockwell thing. You guys find pieces that Anthony doesn't know are in there. I've been working here for a few months, and I definitely have not seen half or even close to what we have.
It took Clara and I about a year and a half, I think, to go through all the works on paper that the museum has of Bernard Langley, who is a main artist.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how many.
It took you a full semester, me a full semester, and then us
half a semester together.
Yeah, half of last semester. So
we have.
Yeah, and that was just from
one
works
artist.
on paper, just from one artist.
Yes, and he also did a lot
and these
of
were
3D.
unframed too. Like
that
was a fun project.
And then one artist among, I mean, I don't even know how many. God knows how many.
Hundreds.
So many. I mean, with this inventory project, we're going in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why, we have these hidden gems kind of just in the way that they're organized, is that it's by name. So you can have, Rockwell with someone named Robinson. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will tell you, so we're currently, I'll be talking actually on this very podcast. We'll be talking to hopefully Grace Acton, who's one of our interns, who's working on a project to make the database more searchable. There are some hilarious, weird key terms that have been applied to things in the collection. So currently, if you searched for, they might have actually fixed this, but if you search for feminine, one object comes up, and it's a drawing. It's one of the Marston Hartley drawings, and it's just a guy. And we were really confused by this. We had no idea why. And so we kind of dug back through it. And it turns out that whoever put it in the initial description, they thought he had feminine lips. And so they had put feminine lips in the description. And it was the only thing that came up under feminine.
Wow.
So
interesting. Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, I tried to think about some of my descriptions during that project. I was like, what would I write?
Yeah.
And sometimes with the pieces that I loved, like, I would give them like such a crazy intense description.
Yeah.
And then if there was one that I didn't really like so much, it would be more like, I don't know.
I think Bill literally, when the first semester I was doing this, I think Bill literally had to come up to me and be like, you need to make your descriptions shorter.
Yeah.
Like, you're putting too much
like
time
it's
into
just so it could be found in the database. You don't need to write like a visual analysis paper.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. want to thank you again for coming on and doing this as like the first guinea pig episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
No, this was so fun.
Is there anything you wanted to plug? Anything you've got going on you want people to know about? Anything like that?
I think first, I gotta plug the museum. Come to the museum. There's some amazing things. If you're there on...
What are the hours, Peter?
Oh, yes. So we're open from 10 to 5, Monday through Saturday. And then Mondays and Wednesdays, we're actually open till 7:30 as well.
Yeah, I'm also going to advertise my radio show Wednesdays, 8 to 10 p.m. So tomorrow, on WRBC 91.5. It's Freshly Squeezed. Should be fun. Our first show of this semester. But yeah, that's my plug. You got anything, Liv?
Circus Club. You don't need to have any experience. We have lots of cool things like stilts and aerial silks. Happens in the Great Cage at 4 every Sunday.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having us.